Hi everybody, welcome back to my videos at Healing Through Christ. So in this video, I decided to talk about signs of spiritual warfare, or signs that you are under a spiritual attack. Because I believe that a lot of spiritual attacks go unnoticed or ignored, in the sense that, you know that something is happening to you. But what you don't know is that it is a demonic attack. It is a spiritual attack. So, and because of that sense right there, this right here allows the devil to just come in and mess up your life, and you're just sitting there taking it. Your eyes are thinking that it's God or testing your faith or something else. So, and I think that one of the reasoning for this is that many people associate spiritual with, supernatural or paranormal. And that is not the only type of spiritual activity, okay? I'm going to talk about something else because, in my opinion, more than 95% of spiritual activity is not supernatural or paranormal. It's just, now we might see the effects of it, but we might not realize that it's a spiritual issue. If that makes sense, okay. Now remember, there's more than 95%. That is my personal opinion. I do believe that, because either way you look at it, the vast majority of spiritual activity is unseen. It is not supernatural or paranormal, okay? I do plan on getting into that in a later video and expose that for what it really is. But this right here, I'm going to get into all 4 signs, okay? We're going to get into 4 signs, and I can use scripture, biblical examples to back them up. Okay? And if I'm thinking about it, I should probably go ahead and get the scriptures ready. Because I'm going to name them and give scriptural evidence for it. Let's see, I need to go to it. And if I thought about it, I probably should have already had this ready. That's on me for doing this last minute. Let's see. That's on me for waiting till last minute to see if I can find this. Okay. See if I can find anything, any proof. Any of these. Because I had this long time ago. And just retouching on stuff that I've talked about in the previous videos. I decided to go back to it again. Alrighty. Yeah. See if I find the right one. Okay, I might have found it, but I'm going to focus on key points. Okay, so I'm going to go to the signs of spiritual warfare. Sign number 1: constant mental and emotional torment. Constant mental and emotional torment. That is sign number 1. And the biblical proof of that is in 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verses 3 through 5. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. I'm going to go back to that in a minute. Casting down arguments. I'm going to go over that in a minute. And every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity of the obedience of Christ. Now I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to go back over something. Okay? I'm going to go back over something. Okay, so I'm going to go over strongholds. Need to go back over something in the strongholds part. Okay, and I'm going to go to the Hebrew word, the Greek word, the New Testament is Greek. So, the word strongholds if I remember correctly, has to do with our mindset, has to do with our thoughts, or thought process. Okay, because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty for pulling down strongholds. So I'm going to look up this Greek word. I do not know how to pronounce this word, so I'm going to give you the Strong's reference. It is Strong's G3794. Okay? This is the Greek word that was translated as stronghold. Okay, so it can refer to an actual stronghold, like what we might think, a castle, a stronghold, a fortress, a fastness. And that's one kind. Then another kind, anything on which one relies. And it gets the example of the arguments and reasonings. There goes thoughts. That's thoughts again. By which a disputant endeavors to fortify his opinion and defend it against his opponent. Now, something I want to make clear is that this particular scripture is not about apologetics. There is scripture that deals with apologetics, but this ain't it. Okay, now I'm going to go and look up the word. I'm going to Google the word arguments. See what that says. Okay, an exchange of diverging of opposite views. Typically heated or angry one. Okay, and that's one type. And the other type, a reason or a set of reasons given with the aim of persuading others that an action or idea is right or wrong. Okay. Now let's close that up. Now, let's look up reasonings. Let's go to reasonings, which I believe will be similar. Okay. The action of thinking about something in a logical, sensible way. Okay. Now, just for the fun of it, let's go ahead and look up this Greek word. I'm going to Google that and see what Google tells me about it. Because again, this right here is not talking about apologetics. Okay. Okay, let's see. There's a literal meaning in Google, according to Google, and a figurative meaning. Anything on which specifically, anything one relies on, which one relies on, specifically the arguments and reasoning used to defend against an opponent. So similar to what I already got. So basically, it has to do with your mind, okay? Your reasoning, okay? So notice, pulling down strongholds are weapons of our warfare. So let's go to our warfare. Our weapons of our warfare. Okay. There's a metaphorical meaning. Paul likens his contest with difficulties that oppose him in the discharge of his apostle duties as warfare. Okay? Military figuratively, the apostolic career as one of hardship and danger, warfare. Okay. Now, we're going to look at the word argument in the next verse. Because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. And in this case, stronghold has to do with your reasoning. Casting down. Now, the New King James will say arguments. I believe King James says imaginations. And given the context, I believe imaginations is a better translation, because arguments make you think of apologetics. So let's get into the apologetics part. Let's look into the apologetics. Okay. Oh, and that is from Strong's G 3053. 3053 in Strong's. Okay, Strong's G 3053. I do not know how to pronounce that word. That is why I'm giving you the Strong's reference instead. Okay, this is the Greek word that was translated as argument in the New King James and imaginations in the King James. Okay, so it's listing 3 definitions: a reckoning, a computation, a reasoning, such as is hostile to the Christian faith, a judgment, decision, such as a conscience passes. Okay? Computation, i.e. figuratively, reasoning, conscience, conceit, imagination, thought. Okay, so this right here, again, thought processes. Okay? Now, let's go to high thing, imaginations, and high thing. And high things, the Greek reference for the Strong's reference for that Greek word is, because I don't know how to pronounce it, is G5313. Okay? Thing, elevated height of space, elevated structure and barrier, rampart, bulwark, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. An elevated place or a thing, abstractly, altitude, or by implication, a barrier, figuratively, height, high thing. So again, the context here has to do with your way of thinking. Okay, barrier is one of the things that is figuratively. So what this is saying is, basically, it's casting down thoughts, and then notice the end of it, taking every thought to captivity to the obedience of Christ. So what this is talking about is spiritual warfare. Okay, so in fact, to get back up a little bit, in blueletterbible.com, verses 1 through 6 is listed as is under the heading Spiritual Warfare in chapter 10. Okay, so just to give a little context. Now I, Paul, myself am pleading with you by the meekness and great and gentleness of Christ, who in presence am lowly among you. But being absent am bold towards you. That's verse 1, chapter 10. Verse 2. But I beg you that when I am present, I may not be bold with that confidence by which I intend to be bold against some who think of us as if we walk according to the flesh. Verse 3. For we walk. I started to go to Ephesians 6:12. That's something else. For though we walk according to the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing into captivity every thought to obedience to Christ, and being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. So the context here is spiritual warfare as in your mind. Okay, so what this right here is telling us that these demonic spirits can plant seeds in your mind. They can plant evil imaginations in your mind, and the thoughts in your mind, and disguise them as your own. Okay? Now then, let's go to the second part in Ephesians chapter 6. Another scripture that's dealing with spiritual warfare. I'm going to go to the part about your emotional health. It says, above all, taking the shield of faith, which will be able to quench the fiery darts of the wicked one. Okay, so if you look at the terms fiery darts, it is referring to an intense pang of emotion. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and look up the word. I'm going to give you the Greek word for fiery and darts. Those are two separate words. Okay, so fiery is from a Greek word. It's from a Greek word that means to burn with fire, to set on fire, kindle, to be on fire, to burn, to be incensed, indignant, make to glow, full of fire, fiery, ignited, of darts, filled with inflammable substances and set on fire, melted by fire and purged of dross. Okay. Then there's a more definition: to kindle, passively, to be ignited, glow, literally, be refined by implication or figuratively, to be inflamed with anger, grief, lust, for examples. Burn, fiery, be on fire, try. And it is from the Strong's G4448. and I cannot pronounce that word either. Okay, that is the word fiery. Now let's look up the word darts. Okay, let's look up the word darts. That is going to be Strong's G956. A missile, dart, javelin, arrow. A missile, dart, a spear or arrow, a dart. So the word fiery is where the emotion parts comes in. Okay, so intense emotional attacks. That's what this is talking about. And it says the shaking of the shield of faith, which will be able to quench them or put them out. The fiery darts of the enemy. So you have to put your trust in God to overcome them. And if you back up to about verse 10, go down to verse 20. Yeah, that right there would you get it for the really just the 20. I guess that's to give you some context. It's about putting on the armor of God. Okay, so right there, the fiery darts of the enemy. Again, they are referring to an intense pang of emotion. Okay, that is the biblical proof for the first one. Okay, let's see how long this video is. Oh wow. There was a lot to go over. So that right there is the video proof for... That right there is the proof of... it's the biblical proof of number 1, constant mental and emotional torment. Okay? I had to go over every detail of it to get it biblically accurate. Okay? I guess I would have to separate it into 4 different parts, because I want to be so accurate that it's going to take a long time to break it all down. Okay? So, that's it for this video. Bye.